You guys strike me as a Mutt and Jeff team. And so that must have been
Abbott and Costello.
yes, Abbott and Costello team, maybe. So, what did you guys see in each other? How did it work? Were there times when you guys couldn't see eye to eye? And
God,
what was that? It's a little bit like a marriage, right?
We fought in the lab like cats and dogs. It was like people said they didn't want to be around. It was like being around a married couple who were getting ready to get divorced.
People would leave the lab when the two of us were working together.
But the fact is that when you have a collaboration as close as John and as effective as John and mine has been, part of the reason for that is because there's a complementary compensation of each other's weaknesses.
Oh, really? Do either of us have any? I didn't.
That's the point. I mean, I'm the messiest person on the earth. I mean, I could take a picture one day, I lose it the next day. And you have every picture. If you told me the other night, you have like 90,000 pictures, right? Or
CDs. We were talking about CDs of pictures. Yes.
CDs of pictures, and I can have some crazy idea. I'm sort of a crazy idea guy, and I can have some crazy idea, and 10 minutes later, John shows up with the pictures. I don't know anybody else like that. I think really the bottom line here is that we are both crazy about structure. I mean, we just have it in our blood to understand the world through understanding and interpreting structure, and we share that immediately. And I've had a lot of people come to my lab, and some of them have this a love for structure and understanding of structure, and some don't. And so our field it attracts those people, and this was a basis, really the basic bottom line for John and I working together.
Yeah, but I want to add one thing, because there's another fundamental way that we're similar, and that is that we're problem solvers. I mean, if I was going to get stranded on a boat with no motor somewhere off at sea, I wanted to be with Tom, because it's the only person that I feel we could solve the problem of our situation appropriately together. That's why it's worked between us, because we were so complementary in that.
And how are you different?
Avogadro's number.
How many fold?
No. I mean, the point. Remember, I love to do theoretical calculations,
even if they're wrong.
It's in my blood, but I'm not very precise, and I just want to see how the math goes, and I'll throw in any old number and run the calculation, and I did. We needed Avogadro. We were trying to figure out how many molecules you could put in a vesicle, so I ran the calculation. And in order to do that, you need a constant called Avogadro's number. And so I threw a number in, did the calculation. Later on, I think he went and talked about it, or I don't know if we published it. But the point was that I had the number wrong by an order of magnitude.
4 orders of magnitude.
Four?
No, it was a critical
calculation. Matter, though.
You and I were calculating how much tracer we would need to get into a nerve in the medium to hope to get a bit of that tracer into these little synaptic vesicles. Okay. It was going to be our first evidence that they actually merged with the cell surface. We're calculating on the blackboard what was the concentration of this little tracer that we would need to add. Tom figured out the volume of the vesicle, had Avogadro's number wrong by 4 orders of magnitude. So we calculated it would have to be 10 molar HRP or something.
And luckily I got it wrong, because that's how much you need.
So that worked out.
Yeah, well,
some mistakes are good.
The experiment worked.
Despite us. Yes.
So I'd like to ask you, why bother collaborating, right? You're both smart. You could have done these experiments on your own. What was why deal with each other?
To some extent, seems like a silly question. It's like asking, why get married? I mean, we're not businessmen calculating a profit. We feel these things in our heart, and I felt an attraction to John's way of thinking and stuff, and it happens. It just happens.
Well, also the issue of as you advance, as you make little observations or even big ones, or get excited about your work, it's just a whole lot more fun to share it with somebody who's totally with you and got an understanding of it and is on the same path and is struggling to get it with you, as opposed to doing it all by yourself.
We were together late one night, and we sort of asked I think I asked you the very same question, and that is that, why are we doing this together? Why are we here doing all this stuff? And you said to me, the most important thing in my life is I want to share discovering something, having the truth unfold with somebody. I want to be there. I want to be there when it happens. And we were sort of committed to each other, to being there when it happened.
All scientists want to share their results with the broader community. They want to make an impact, make a contribution, and so on. But this is a more intimate thing. It's just your day-to-day operation, day-to-day thinking about science. Somehow it's just a whole lot more fun to share it with a friend if you can. It's just great.
So the first thing is that it's fun to work with somebody. But the second is that there's a potential satori that lies beyond just having fun with each other. Some insight that you wouldn't have if you were working alone.
Well, there's a whole other end. I mean, let's say I might come out to Colorado because I wanted to bring some specimens and work with somebody who's really good in your mass spec lab. But that doesn't even touch the kind of thing we're talking here. But I mean, scientists work together sometimes because science has become so complex and so specialized that you can get things done by working together, and you have to give up the kind of I want to do everything myself. I want the glory and everything. You have to know how to share, and the ethics of sharing, and ethics of writing papers together, and all that. But that's a different issue.
Yeah, that's the issue of symbiosis in science, and yes, that's a critical ingredient. But this is a more personal thing. It's just a whole lot more fun to do it with a friend, and particularly when you've been working together for a long time and had a common struggle, a common goal, then just feels that much sweeter.